Once upon a time, in a quiet little town surrounded by open fields and long empty roads, there lived a man named David. He was known as a hard-working and thoughtful man, but behind his calm personality, he carried a constant worry. His son, Ethan. Ethan was young, full of energy, but completely directionless. He had no interest in school, no discipline, and no sense of purpose. Every morning, while other kids packed their backpacks and headed to class, Ethan would walk out of the house with no plan, wandering the streets, wasting hours as if they meant nothing. His father watched all of this in silence, day after day, week after week, until one evening, he finally spoke. "Ethan," David said calmly, "education isn't just about passing exams, it's about building a life you won't regret." But Ethan barely listened. To him, it sounded like the same old lecture, empty, repetitive, meaningless. That night, David made a decision. If words can't teach him, he thought, then experience will. The next morning, David called Ethan into his study. Inside an old wooden cabinet, there was a worn-out book. Its cover was faded, its pages slightly yellow, but it carried something far more valuable than it seemed. "Take this book," David said, handing it to him, "and go downtown. Ask people how much they think it's worth." Ethan looked confused, but he didn't argue. He grabbed the book and headed toward the busy town center. The streets were alive, cars passing by, people rushing, shops open, voices blending into noise. Ethan approached a man standing outside a grocery store. "How much do you think this book is worth?" he asked. The man glanced at it quickly. "Maybe $5, he said casually. Ethan moved on. He walked into a small shop. The owner examined it for a second. "Old and used. I'd say $10. Another person said $8. Someone else said $15. Everyone gave a different answer, but no one saw anything special in it. To them, it was just an old book, nothing more. Ethan returned home later that day. "Dad," he said, "everyone gave me different prices. $5, $10. No one really cared about it." David nodded. "Put it back," he said calmly. The next day, he called Ethan again. "Bring me the same book." Ethan did. This time, David looked straight into his eyes and said, "Go back downtown, but this time, don't ask the price of the book." Ethan frowned. "Then what am I supposed to ask?" David paused, then said quietly, "Ask them the value of the knowledge inside it." Ethan didn't fully understand, but he went anyway, back to the same streets. This time he asked people, "What do you think the knowledge inside this book is worth?" People looked at him like he was joking. Some laughed, some ignored him. Others said, "That doesn't even make sense." Ethan felt awkward, embarrassed, out of place. Just as he was about to give up, he noticed a small bookstore tucked away at the corner of the street. Inside, an elderly man sat behind the counter, reading quietly. There was something different about him. Calm, focused, wise. Ethan stepped inside. "Sir," he said hesitantly, "what is the value of the knowledge inside this book?" The old man slowly closed his book and looked at Ethan with a gentle, understanding smile. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke. "You can put a price on paper, ink, and a cover," he said. "But knowledge?" He shook his head softly. "Knowledge doesn't have a price." Ethan listened carefully. The man continued, "You can buy a book for a few dollars, but what you learn from it can be worth a lifetime. One idea can change your direction. One lesson can save you years of mistakes. One insight can take you where others never reach." Ethan's expression began to change. The old man leaned forward slightly and said, "Education is the only thing in this world that no one can take away from you. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you have knowledge, you have power." He paused, then added, "And the greatest tragedy isn't failure. It's having the opportunity to learn and choosing to waste it." Those words hit Ethan harder than anything he had ever heard. For the first time, he felt something shift inside him. A realization, a sense of regret, a spark of purpose. He thanked the old man and hurried back home. His father was waiting. "Well?" David asked. Ethan took a deep breath and told him everything. Every word, every moment. David listened quietly, then placed his hand on his son's shoulder. "Now you understand," he said softly. "That book was never just a book. It was your future." From that day on, Ethan changed completely. He started waking up early. He picked up his books. He began to study, not because he was told to, but because he finally understood why it mattered. The same boy who once wasted his time was now building his future, step by step, day by day. And years later, That same boy became someone people respected, not because of luck, not because of money, but because of education. So remember, education is not a cost. It's an investment. You can lose money, you can lose opportunities, but once you gain knowledge, it stays with you forever.